Hi guys, I'm back with another tall tale for you. Zoom in here. Um, Today I'm doing a tall tale that is a little bit different because it's not by Stephen Kellogg. It's a different author. And you're definitely going to be able to tell the difference with the Stephen Kellogg book. Oops. We know what his illustrations look like. They're very, very detailed, very specific, very cartoon-like. And this one is, I'm actually doing a girl tall tale this time. I've done two boys. I realized it's time to do a girl. This one is called Swamp Angel, and it's by Ann Isaacs. And it's illustrated by Paul O. Zelinsky. And take a look at the front cover. What do you notice about her size? Look at that Swamp Angel right here up at the top. And these are her parents. So do you think we're using some exaggeration in this story? Yes, I think so. So back here we have the poster that we've gone over a couple times. We're looking for exaggeration, superhuman characteristics, problem and solution, conquering major feats, some humor, action. It's funny or impossible. There's maybe some trickery. And at the bottom, we'll see if this one also starts out with her as a baby. So here we go, Swamp Angel. Swamp Angel by Ann Isaacs, illustrated by Paul O. Zelinsky. On August 1st, 1815, remember that time frame we talked about? When Angelica Longrider took her first gulp of air on this earth, there was nothing about the baby to suggest that she would become the greatest woodswoman in Tennessee. The newborn was scarcely taller than her mother and couldn't climb a tree without help. But man, was she big. Although her father gave her a shiny new axe to play with in the cradle, like any good Tennessee father would, she was a full 2 years old before she built her first log cabin. Look at how big she is compared to her parents. By the time she was full grown, she was second to none in buckskin bravery, performing eye-popping wonders in the bogs and backwoods of Tennessee. I'll zoom in so you can see the pictures. Look at all the things she's doing. When she was 12, a wagon train got mired in Dejection Swamp. The settlers had abandoned their covered wagons and nearly all hope besides. Suddenly, a young woman in a homespun dress trampered towards them out of the mist. She lifted those wagons like they were twigs in a puddle and set them on high ground. "It's an angel!" cried the gape-mouthed pioneers. Ever since that time, Angelica Longrider has been known as the Swamp Angel. To this day, stories about Swamp Angels spring up like sunflowers along the wagon trails, and every one of them is true. We'll see if we think they're true. Once upon a summer, in the Tennessee wilderness, there prowled a huge bear with a bottomless appetite for settlers' grub. That means their food. Why, that varmint would rip the door off a food cellar and gobble up the whole winter's rations without waiting for a napkin. He came to be known as Thundering Tarnation because those were the words most commonly heard when he was spotted in the neighborhood. Many tried, but none could catch that low-down pile of pelts. He was fast and wily, and his fur so thick the gunshot never reached his skin. So when they say the word pelts, they're referring to the fur, the skin. So when they would hunt the bears, they would use their fur for different things like clothing and furniture, like carpets and things like that. Before long, Thundering Tarnation had cleaned out half the root cellars in Tennessee. The settlers were desperate with no food to get them through the long winter ahead, so they sent word across the land of a competition to kill that bear. The reward for the successful hunter was to be Tarnation's enormous pelt, equal to a whole year's hunting and worth a lot more. On account for his fame, beyond that, the winner would earn a powerful reputation and the title of champion wildcat. So they're looking for a hunter that is going to be able to kill this bear, Thundering Tarnation, because nobody else can. The bear is eating all of their food, and he is getting himself into a lot of trouble. And the winner of this contest gets to keep his pelt, which is the fur, as a reward, and that's a great reward. Now, it's well known, and in fact, too, that Tennessee daredevils are as plentiful as dewdrops on corn. Pretty soon, there was a long line of men in coonskin caps waiting to sign up for the hunt. But when Swamp Angel stepped in line, one of those buckskins called out, "Hey, Angel, shouldn't you be home mending a quilt?" So back then, they didn't think that women should be involved in any of these things. They thought that women should be just kind of at home, doing things around the house, making food, making supper, mending things. So they were making fun of her for being in this line because she was the only woman. And they all thought, she'll never be able to do it. She should be home doing something else. Says she, "Quilting is men's work." "Well, how about baking a pie, Angel?" "I aim to," she says, "a bear pie." Their hoots and taunts didn't stop Swamp Angel from signing up and setting out to find that bear. So she didn't care what all those boys thought. She was going to find that bear. Tarnation left a pretty clear trail. The first hunter was found wearing an empty molasses bucket, a silly grin on his face. Seems he'd tried the sweet approach and got licked in more ways than one. It took 10 strong men to rescue the next hunter from his own bear trap. A third set out with a hardened hickory club and ended waist deep in toothpicks. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Another was discovered wandering in circles, clutching 2 fistfuls of fur. His head was completely bald, his beard mighty scarce. Seems he'd traded pelts with Thundering Tarnation and got the worst of the bargain. They're not having very good luck catching this bear. Soon Swamp Angel was the only one left who hadn't met up with Tarnation, until one morning she awoke from dozing in the shade of a creek to find that 4-legged forest of stubble staring at her across the stream. They faced off for a few minutes. "Varmint," says Angel, "I'm much obliged for that pelt you're carrying." "Grrr," said Tarnation. Then they waded into the stream and commenced to fight. Swamp Angel took hold of that bear and tossed him so high he was still on the way up at nightfall. Even when the first star came out, there was no sign of him. Angel began to think she had lost him in the sky. Now Angel was bound and determined to get Tarnation's pelt. Just at that moment, a tornado whirled by with a spout clear up to the clouds. Swamp Angel grabbed hold of it and swung the twister around like a giant lasso in the heavens. She roped that bristle bandit and brought him crashing back to earth. Locked in a bear hug, Swamp Angel and Thundering Tarnation wrestled across the hills of Tennessee. They stirred up so much dust that those hills are still called the Great Smoky Mountains. They fought 3 days and 3 nights without a break. On the 4th day, they wrestled their way into a lake 50 feet deep. Tarnation pinned Angel to the muddy bottom with one of his gigantic paws. To get a breath of air, she had to drink the whole lake dry. That was mighty refreshing, says Angel. But it didn't look good for Angel. Down in the muck under the mountain of mange, no matter how she struggled, she could not free herself from Tarnation's paw. Then Angel had an idea. She opened her tobacco pouch and emptied it into the end of Tarnation's nose. He sniffed, threw back his head, and sneezed so hard the mud flew off the lake bottom. An angel with it. There she is up there. She hiked back 10 miles from where she had landed, and the fight commenced once more. Swamp Angel and Tarnation finally grew so tired they fell asleep, but that didn't stop them. They wrestled in their sleep. Tarnation snored louder than a rock slide, while Angel snored like a locomotive in a thunderstorm. Their snoring rumbled through the earth, tumbling boulders and shaking trees loose. By morning they had snored down nearly the whole forest. The second biggest pine tree in Tennessee landed smack beside them, and at the top of that tree was a beehive the size of a hill, oozing rivers of honey. After 5 days without food, Tarnation couldn't resist. He rolled over in his sleep and sank his jaws into the sweet, syrupy torrent. As he guzzled and slurped, Swamp Angel snored down one last tree. It fell right on top of Thundering Tarnation. That bear was dead as a stump, and considerably flatter. When Angel awoke and saw what had happened, she plucked off her hat, bowed her head, and offered up these words of praise. Confound it, varmint, if you weren't the most wondrous heap of trouble I've ever come to grips with. That night, Tarnation fed everyone in Tennessee. I can tell you it was the biggest celebration the state had ever known. There were bear steaks and bear cakes, bear muffins and bear stuffing, bear roast and bear toast. And to wash it all down, there was bear wine. You could hear waistcoat buttons popping as far away as Kentucky. The leftovers filled all the empty storehouses in Tennessee just before the first snowfall. Swamp Angel decided to keep Thundering Tarnation's pelt as a rug. It was too big for Tennessee, so she moved to Montana and spread that bear rug out on the ground in front of her cabin. Nowadays, folks call it Shortgrass Prairie. Now you may think no more was ever seen of Thundering Tarnation, but that's not the case. Back when Angel threw him up in the sky, he crashed into a pile of stars, making a lasting impression. You can still see him there any clear night. And that's called a constellation. So maybe look for him up in the sky at night. So that's a really fun story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Swamp Angel, have a good day.